You're on the Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. We're here every Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern live. And of course, we're here on all the different things you can think of, maybe where you're watching now. I want to talk to you tonight about the new religion of man-made global warming. And it is a religion. It has its own unique God, Mother Earth. It deifies the created world, with seminarians confessing to plants in a chapel service. It has its high priests and religious leaders, the climate change gurus and radical environmentalists. It has its patron saints, like Sweden's Greta Thunberg. And it has its own doomsday scenario. The end of the world is near, very near. According to a recent Rasmussen-Harris X survey, 29% of all American voters believe it is at least somewhat likely that the Earth will become uninhabitable and humanity will be wiped out in the next 15 years due to climate change. The demographic split lines up this way. Half, 51%, of voters under 35 believe it is at least somewhat likely humanity will be wiped out in the next 10 years or so. At the same time, only 12% of senior citizens agree, and only 4% of senior citizens believe it's very likely. The survey revealed rural Americans do not share the city folks' concerns. Of those surveyed, 21% of urban voters believe that our world will soon become uninhabited. Americans in the suburbs and rural areas are completely unconcerned. 6% of rural voters, 5% of suburbanites believe imminent doom is upon the world. So what's the real issue here? Well, the real issue is that younger people have for the last 20, 30 years been fed this stuff in schools and through social media. A May 2nd headline on Science News for Students states, "Climate change poses mental health risks to children and teens." I don't want to take time to read the article, but I can't figure out how they went from here to there. A September 19 article on Conversation.com warned that, quote, "ignoring young people's climate change fears is a recipe for anxiety," end of quote. Theirs or yours? In fact, as far back as 2016, the American Psychological Association claimed that, quote, "climate change is threatening mental health." One federal report tapping into psychologists' expertise outlines the ways climate change affects us all. But herein lies the rub. It's not climate change that's threatening mental health. It's the apocalyptic way that it's being reported that threatens the mental health. While the true believer looks forward to this end, the unredeemed and the uninformed world clearly does not. And it scares them to death that this place would come to a conclusion. Climate change reporting produces fear and provokes frustration, especially for young people. Our world is being destroyed and you're not doing anything about it. You don't care. Well, to quote Greta Thunberg directly, quote, "You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?" Irrational? Not as much as you might think. An October 2018 headline proclaimed, "We have 12 years to limit climate change catastrophe." That according to the United Nations. 6 months later, March 2019, the UN website. Only 11 years left to prevent irreversible damage from climate change. Speakers warned during General Assembly high-level meeting. Ambition, urgency needed to address global emergency, according to the Secretary General. I would suggest to you that this is what people are afraid of. Not the reality, but the hype. Younger people are stressed. They're angry. They look to older people and conclude, it's your policies, it's your greed, it's your selfishness that have stolen my future. As reported on September 26, quote, around climate change protests, tears linger. Youthful activists cite all too depressing science and develop angst. They grieve for a future they worry they'll never have. Who set them up to worry like this? Rank and file young people are not alone. Zero Hour co-founder Jamie Margolin, a 17-year-old from Seattle, says, quote, many young climate activists say they feel hopeless and overwhelmed. It's really hard to grow up on a planet full of ifs. There's always been a sense that everything beautiful in this world is temporary for my generation. Climate alarmists are 41 years of age or younger. And the sad reality is that this whole thing is not at all true. Instead, as John Nolte pointed out, for more than 50 years, climate alarmists in the scientific community and environmental movement have not gotten even one prediction right. But they do have a perfect record of getting 41 predictions wrong from 1967 to 2014. You can check it out for yourself, Breitbart.com. Look for John Nolte, N-O-L-T-E, Environment Climate Experts. They tell us that on at least 41 occasions, these so-called experts have predicted some terrible environmental catastrophe was imminent. A catastrophe that never happened. Consequently, he asked, why would we completely restructure our economy and sacrifice our personal freedom for experts who have a record of 0 for 41 and who have never once gotten it right? Not once. So young people are being stressed about something that may never happen. They're growing up waiting for the shoe to drop, not being able to enjoy life because of their fear of tomorrow. The innocence of youth is being robbed from them, and everybody is to blame. Yet an article on the Teaching Tolerance website urges, quote, teachers' silence on climate change violates students' rights. Now, from my perspective, and leaning into my areas of expertise, I would rather say this. It's true that this world will not endure forever. One day, Jesus has promised to return and make a new heaven and a new earth. So live your life here with passion, in expectation of his return, making every moment count. That way, whether you live to be 100, or if he comes back in 10 years, your life will be full and your life will be blessed. I challenge climate change religionists to come up with a better message than that.